Well, again, my name is Doug Smith. Welcome to this 17 July 2015 edition of Portsmouth This Week, the voice of Portsmouth Town Hall. Our special guest today is Rich Rayner, our new town administrator, and I'm delighted to have you on board today, Rich. Thank you for coming in.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
As you probably know, your predecessor, John Clem, is the guy that started this program.
Yep.
And it's really for purposes like this, trying to introduce folks to what's going on in Portsmouth. And I hope you'll come back and be a guest on our show often and
Yep.
whenever you feel like it. You know, in many ways, it's your show. And we do call it the voice of Portsmouth Town Hall. So I understand that you have watched some of these programs before, even in Europe?
Yes, I have. Well, when I found out about the job, and I passed the initial screening, and I was invited to interview, I did as much research as I thought I could do, and of course I went directly to the town website, and I found the link to Portsmouth This Week.
That's right.
And I watched the most recent one. I don't remember which one it was, but this was back in March, April timeframe. And I was intrigued by how much knowledge there was available. I found, boy, it was almost cheating, I think. So I started from A to Z, and I just watched all of them. And I took notes as I went.
You didn't go crazy at all watching it?
Well, I wanted the job. And, you know, and who knew that I would get this far? I certainly had hoped. But I thought it was invaluable in my preparation for the process. And I took notes as I went, and I bounced that against minutes of town hall committee meetings, newspaper articles, so on and so forth. But I found it an invaluable source of information regarding Portsmouth.
Well, I think that's great. That's probably the best thing we've heard said about our program, so I appreciate that, and I'm sure everybody on the show does. On a personal note, I understand your family's not here yet, but you're trying to get your house ready.
Yeah.
How's that going? You getting time to do that, or?
No. You know, I told everybody that I wanted to meet everybody in the first week. I found out in the first couple days that wasn't going to happen. It's taken me a few weeks to get to know all the people. And what I mean by that is sit down with each one of the department heads, and parallel to that, meeting the stakeholders in the town. You know, who has a vested interest in what's going on in Portsmouth. Obviously, all the citizens do, but there are some folks, committee members,
right.
In addition to the councilmen, business owners, organizations that are interested in the town, whether it's the concerned citizens, whether it's the business association, so on and so forth. And I want to make sure that I get around and see everybody. So that's taken up a lot of my time at the expense of getting the house ready for my wife's arrival. So this weekend I got a lot of work to do.
The thing is, I know how tough a move is.
Yeah.
And I don't envy you trying to do a job while you're also kind of going through that. What can you tell us? Tell us a little bit about your background. I
Sure.
was very impressed with your resume.
Sure. Well, I'm from Western New York. My dad was a millwright for General Motors, and living through that life at home, I saw that in the auto industry, they go on strike every 3 years. At least they used to, and in addition to the layoffs. And I knew that that's not what I wanted. I stumbled literally upon the Navy. So after college, I joined the Navy. I came to Newport to go through OCS back when there were two different OCSs. I started out in Pensacola, and I got non-physically qualified because my eye prescription had changed, so I couldn't fly. And fishing around for something to do, and I remember talking to a Navy captain, who had to break the bad news to me, and he started offering me different options, and I don't want to do that. Nah, that's not interesting. And then he mentioned this surface warfare community, and all I heard was warfare, and I was like, wow, what's that?
That's like the real Navy.
Yeah, and he's well, I didn't know that at that moment, and he said, I asked him what is surface warfare. he said, you know, those guys that are out on ships. And I was like, ships? And he slammed his hand down on the table. He goes, this is the Navy. You know, that'll be fine, sir. And that's how I ended up in Newport. I went to the OCS in Newport, and I progressed all through the ranks, all the way up to 06 or Navy captain. I've had command of ship squadrons, personnel, but every step along the way, we come back to Newport for our training at the major milestones in our career. So for 30 years, I haven't had a home other than the constant coming back to Newport. So when in the Navy, as you know, you have to retire at 30 years. And when we were approaching retirement, my wife and I really had to decide where we wanted to go. Do we want to chase the money and the position, or do we want to chase the location? And for us, it was a no-brainer because we had been back to Aquidneck Island so many times. We want to go back to Aquidneck Island. And then when the conversation became, where in Aquidneck Island do we want to be? When we lived in Newport as the Naval, when I was the Naval Staff College Director, we lived in Coasters Harbor in the Navy housing there. Although we loved Newport, we knew that we wanted to be in a place that had more of a small town feel, more open space, and a place that had good schools. And for our purposes, that was Portsmouth. And so we were going to come here regardless. As I told the town council, we were coming to Portsmouth, and if this didn't pan out, and if the War College didn't pan out, I would have greeted people at Walmart. It would have been fine with me.
Yeah, I think you made the right choice.
Thanks.
We're a great community here, if you can just dig down a little bit.
Sure.
So, you know, you've had a distinguished career as a naval officer, command at sea a couple times, but you have no public administration background.
Yeah.
And do you think your experience in the Navy will help you
I do.
Do this?
I think it comes down to leadership, and I think it comes down to management. I think the town council wanted to leverage the experience they had with John Klim, who did a great job with the town, who put forth a lot of work that needs to be completed, and they were looking for somebody who knows how to organize, manage, and lead. Now, admittedly, I don't have municipal experience. I've never run a town, but as a fellow Navy vet, I think you will buy into the argument that a ship is a town at sea. When my wife, I didn't know about this position.
Yeah, but the politics are different.
The politics are completely different, absolutely. Yeah. But you know, at first, I didn't think I would put my hat in the ring for the job. And my wife approached me and said, you know, think about it from the perspective of running a ship or running a squadron, and try to concentrate on those parallels. So what I found is that the parallels are similar. You know, as a captain, I work for an admiralty. Here I have the citizens, I have the town council. And as a captain, as a commander, you have department heads that work for you. Same thing in town hall. There are big differences. In the military, you have a constant churn of personnel. In a town, you don't. People are in there. I mean, you're in there for your career. You're not in there to do your tour and then look for something else or go on to the next assignment. The internal politics and the politics of the town are obviously different, but I think I've demonstrated over 30 years that I can ramp up quickly. I can take greater levels of responsibility and succeed. I am adept at the politics of the military. Politics are politics, and I've been able to navigate that field successfully over 30 years, and I think I can do that here.
Yeah, I was impressed with, particularly towards the end, you were over in NATO, and NATO has got to be like herding cats as well, so I think you got a sense of...
Yeah, it's, for the viewers, I mean, NATO is, you know, that's an alliance of 28 nations. Yeah. Nothing happens in NATO unless all 28 nations agree.
Right.
So the smallest nation has a no vote, and it doesn't progress. But yet NATO has still been the strongest, most successful alliance in the history of the world. It just takes people that are committed to it and that are adept at being able to herd those cats to make things move forward. So I think I've been able to learn from that experience. I was the policy branch head for NATO headquarters in Brunson. getting policy through meant that you had to be able to identify who the stakeholders are. Of course, there's compromise involved, but be able to reach an agreement, reach a policy that nobody could say no to, because everybody had a stake in it.
Yeah. Well, I would think that kind of experience would be useful to you in Portsmouth, because we do have different views on just about everything. You know, is it raining out? Well, no, it's not. Well, yes, it is. You know, I think it's obvious from and everybody that talked to you when you came in and went through the interviews was very impressed. I'm with you. I think, you know, I've always believed naval officers can do anything, anything they put their mind
Jack
to.
of all trades.
And I think it's obvious that you did your homework on this town. You've only been in the job a couple of weeks. Can you tell us what do you think about the condition of the town generally?
Yeah, generally, I think it's in great shape. Obviously, the budget is in good shape. There are some areas that we need to improve in. There's some town infrastructure that we need to devote some resources to, or you know, and by resources, time, energy, people, money.
Right.
So there is some town infrastructure that is going to need some help, and we're going to focus on that. But I think overarching, what the town needs, and I'm sure the councilman will agree with me, and as well as the staff, is we are anxiously awaiting the comprehensive plan. I'm used to operating in an environment where decisions are made based on the outcome supporting the objectives, the goals, and the vision.
Right.
All right, and that's called strategy. That's what strategy is in a nutshell. We need to have a vision for the future of Portsmouth.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we are only just stamping out forest fires as they come up. We need to be able to make decisions that
Right.
are supporting an overall
Yeah.
goal
Where do we
objective.
want to be in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years? Exactly.
And that's what we're going to push forward.
I think we've probably said that a couple times on this program a couple years ago, anyway.
I imagine you have.
But yeah, and I think that comprehensive plan is the key, and that basic issue has to be decided before you do much. How did your first town council meeting go?
It was pretty benign. I just let people know what I was doing, and I made a commitment. There were two things that came out of it, and everybody could read the minutes. One, we have an annual report that's a bit behind, and I think that's just due to the transition of personnel. So I promised that we would have that done by the end of August. In addition, Bill is stepping down as the business development director, and I've been directed to start the process of looking what we want to do with that position, how do we alter it, what's necessary, and then how do we proceed in replacing Bill. Yeah,
many of us feel that's kind of a key job. It could be a really key job in town. We're almost out of time already. We're down to the last minute. This is just a quick 15-minute segment, but you want to say anything about what do you think your biggest challenges are?
Well, I think I touched upon it. I think the biggest challenge is convincing people that I am here for the benefit of the town. I have the best interests of the town at stake. I am vested in the town. I'm not somebody who's not a word against anybody else. I bought a house here. My family's coming here. I'm vested. I'm not going anywhere. So I will make decisions as town administrator in support of the town council and the citizens that are in the best interest of Portsmouth.
Okay, that's great. I also think it's great that you're going to have kids in school here.
Absolutely, I can't wait. My daughter is going to go into 11th grade. She's an athlete. She's a scholar. My son is going into the middle school, and we gave him the opportunity. He once went to Clooney. We said, you can go back to Clooney if you want to. He said, no, I want to go to Portsmouth Middle School.
That's so great. Listen, Rich, thanks for joining us today, and I hope we see you back here on Portsmouth this week.
I promise. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, my next guest on this week's show is Michele O'Brien, the producer of Rhode Island PBS series Our Town, and she's here today to talk about Our Town Portsmouth, which I think is very exciting. Welcome, Margie.
Thanks for letting us come.
Rhode Island PBS is doing a special series on towns in Rhode Island called Our Town, and the first show will be on North Kingston. That's the one you're working on now, I guess.
Actually, we've already been to Gloucester, Rhode Island. That was our
Gloucester,
first stop.
okay.
North Kingstown second, and Portsmouth is third.
Okay, Can you tell us a little bit about this series and how it came about?
Sure. So we're sort of following a model from one of our sister stations down in Pennsylvania that's been doing this for 20 years. And they go and it's one stop along the way. So what we're hoping for is to get a glimpse for our viewers at Rhode Island PBS of what Portsmouth is like. A little glimpse of the history, and then I'm also hoping for the present day and maybe even some future stories. And I think that would involve some of the kids. So we're really encouraging some of the high schoolers who,
absolutely.
you know, these kids have no fear. They pick up a camera, they edit.
And they're very artistic. And,
Sure.
Yeah.
So we'd love to see some kids get involved with this project.
Okay, so would I as well. How's the North Kingstown? That's the one you're working on now.
Yes. So
how's that going?
We tried to start both towns around the same time because we didn't want Portsmouth, the people here, to miss out on anything. Like if there was a great festival or some sort of event in April or May, we didn't want people to miss out on shooting that and bringing us that story.
Right.
But we're really going to be focusing on Portsmouth towards September, and then we debut Our Town Portsmouth on Tuesday, December 2nd.
December 2nd.
Yes.
Now, will it eventually go up on your website or something?
It will. Yeah.
In other words, is there a way that we could have a link that we could send people to actually look at it later on?
Yes. So what happens is, for months, people work on their stories, and what we're encouraging people to do is, if there's a storyteller, team up with a videographer, work together, bring us their story, and then we edit it and we put it into the hour-long Our Town Portsmouth. And then on December 2nd, we invite everyone that's been part of the project to come see the show first and foremost, and then join us for a pledge night, which is a fundraiser for Rhode Island PBS. And we've done this with Our Town Gloucester, and it was fantastic. The folks came, and at the end of the show, I asked everyone, raise your hand if you've learned something new about Gloucester.
Yeah.
And every single one did. Yeah. And then they were so excited. So they came in, they manned our phones for that evening. They took all the calls from people who were generous enough to pledge for Rhode Island PBS. And then they get a thank you gift in the form of a DVD. So we're going to be doing the same thing for Our Town Portsmouth.
Okay, great. So that's a way to get a DVD is to
Exactly.
participate in this.
Yes.
That's super. How did Portsmouth get selected, and how did you determine the order of the towns, just out of curiosity?
Gloucester was sort of just a random pick. We were sort of looking at where we have strong membership, and we also were looking for an interesting town. And believe it or not, there are folks in Rhode Island who've never been to Gloucester, who've never heard of Gloucester, so we're like, okay, this could be neat. And then we put it out as a contest. We asked our viewers and our members, where should we go next? And North Kingstown and Portsmouth were our two highest rated votes. So here we are.
I'm sorry I didn't know about that. We could have probably come in first if we'd advertised it a little more.
But this is going to be great. We've already had a meeting here in Portsmouth, and we thought it was an incredible reception. There are about 30 people in the room who are looking forward to being part of this project.
Yeah, well, I hope we can at least double that, if not triple it, through this show and other things here. What is your role? What do you do exactly? What does a producer do?
So the producer is an organizer to begin with. So I'm going around trying to build up some of the talk for this program, get people involved, and then steer them in the right direction. So a lot of people have great ideas, they just don't know how to go about it. So I can help pair them up with a talented videographer, or I can help them narrow their story, because I know in Portsmouth there's incredible history here, and someone wanted to take me from A to Z, and I said, well, that could be our hour-long program, so we have to narrow in on G, and we'll give you 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm trying to do.
So
and
people
then,
can contact you then if they have questions
Absolutely.
or ideas.
Yep.
Okay.
And then when the footage comes in, that's where I really go to work. So I take everyone's raw footage, I log it, I write it, and then I work with an editor to put it together to a story.
Okay. Yeah, when I called you the other day, I was told you were in the screening room or you're doing something like that, so I figured a little bit of hands-on there going on.
It's fun. That's the creative part.
Yeah. This project is fascinating because it requires a lot of public input, and I guess the question is, what exactly are you looking for? You want people to should somebody do like a 5-minute video on something, or?
Well, interesting enough, and you know this, someone could shoot an hour worth of video and we'll whittle it down to a 2 to 3 minute piece.
Sure.
Because we're trying to do, so if someone has a fantastic historical piece and they only have about 20 black and white photos, but with a couple interviews, we can work that into a 2-minute piece. And then other people may have 7 hours of video that we can whittle down to a 5-minute piece.
Okay, so how would photographs work? For example, let's say the Historical Society. We had some pictures showing this old building that this is housed in. How would somebody go about submitting that with a script behind it?
So the easiest way for this is we have a brand new camera for our town project. You'll borrow it from Rhode Island PBS, and you'd set your photos up on a table. Camera's on a tripod, no shaky video,
right.
And you just hit record, 10 seconds per picture, and that's what you would give me. And then if you could have someone who knows all about these pictures, just be on camera.
Like a voiceover?
Either a voiceover, well, we'd like to see the people on camera.
Yeah, okay, yeah, sure.
And they could tell our story. So for example, we have a great story coming out of our town, North Kingstown, about a pilot that was based in Quonset. And his grandson and daughter are doing the piece for us. They have about 20 black and white photos, really great photos from that time period. And then the wife of the pilot is on camera talking about what her experience was like at Quonset. And then they also have another gentleman who was part of this pilot's crew back in the day, talking about what their, the camaraderie of their troop was like, and what life was like. So working with all of that, you can tie in a nice little story.
Sure, that sounds great. I hope as people watch this, they get ideas on what they could do. Yeah. Because everybody's got a different story here in Portsmouth, and a lot of them are fascinating. And I think the same thing is going to happen that you say happened in Gloucester. You're going to find people are going to be amazed that we have this stuff.
Oh, sure.
Particularly the history.
And what's neat too is when we have the ads that run about the Our Town project, it talks about like the backyard secrets and the local legends, and that can trigger a lot of memories. So just in our Town meeting in Portsmouth, we heard about a gentleman, Mr. Escobar.
Louis Escobar.
Yeah. So
my favorite guy.
Okay, so he's a great story right there.
Yeah, he is.
So someone just has to jump on it and do it. But without being in this town and talking to the townspeople, we would never have known about that.
Yeah.
So that's the neat part about the community being completely involved in it.
Somebody should definitely do something with Louis. Unfortunately, he's in the hospital right now, but this guy, on his own hook, conducts fireworks for the town free every year.
Fantastic.
On some farmland down there. It's right up by the town hall. Great guy. So it sounds like this is a great way for people to show their community spirit, and we have a lot of spirit out there. It's just got to be sort of harnessed, I think.
Right.
And this is a really cool way. It's something that they can. It'll last forever, So I think.
Well, it's a neat thing too, and what we try to do is when we do pick the towns is just based on our knowledge. There are a couple stories that we have to do. You have to do a little bit of the history of Portsmouth, and you have to do the beaches, because that's part of your claim to fame. So there's some stories that we can just check right off, but it's the neat little stories that I feel really add to the program, and that's the local people bringing us their stories.
Absolutely. Well, I think it's great. And how can people learn more about this?
So we have a website. It's ripbs.org/ourtown.
Okay.
And that's all the information. It's from getting involved in the project, how to be a storyteller, how to be a videographer. There's actually a link to tips on shooting, which is great. And the other really great thing for this project is we have a brand new camera at PBS that we just loan out to people for a day, 2 days shoot, and I will tell you, it's so user-friendly. It weighs about 4 pounds.
Wow.
Tripod's super user-friendly, so people shouldn't be intimidated to use it, so they can they can be their own videographer. But we're also having a meeting here at the Portsmouth Library on July 29th at 6:30, and we encourage anyone who would like to be part of this to come to that meeting.
Okay, that's great. So Wednesday, the 29th of July at 6:30 at the library.
Yes.
How can local media help? We get a lot of support from both the Newport Daily News and Portsmouth Post in terms of just saying what's going on in town. How can they help with this project?
Well, I think just helping to get the word out that it's going on. And the other thing that's neat, and again we've based this on our sister station down in Philadelphia, is businesses can get involved. they can be part of this by sponsoring the program. There's different levels of sponsorship, but it's neat because then we feel like we have everybody on board.
Yeah.
So, for instance, in North Kingstown, we have 5 sponsors, local businesses who love being part of that town and they wanted to be part of this project. So their names are added, their logos are added, they get a little spot. They're part of Pledge Night. So we encourage Portsmouth businesses to do the same thing.
Yeah, have you got any response thus far from?
A couple.
Yeah.
We actually did just from the first meeting.
Probably Clements Market would be
Well,
one.
we're
though.
hoping for Clements Market.
Yeah, they support everything we do. They're
Yes.
absolutely great. And they're having their 35th year anniversary, I think, going on.
That's
It's
great.
something every weekend.
And just that is a story.
Yeah.
I mean, wouldn't it be neat to see photos from opening day all the way up to 35
Yeah, how did this
years?
come to be? And
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really neat. What is the deadline? Let's talk about the time frames here.
So we've already heard from a couple of folks in town. They've already shot their stories. I expect to get the footage in pretty soon. I can start editing that. We will be in town to help people. We're still picking a couple of days. And that can be from, I can help with actual tips on shooting to getting people comfortable for their interviews. Really just pushing the project along.
Yeah.
But we're hoping to have all the video to us probably by the end of October, and that gives us a full month to edit and get the show ready. But I will say, if there's a fantastic event happening in Portsmouth in the middle of November, then we're going to give you a break.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to miss anything.
We have things going on all the time, and it's, even as a resident, it's hard to find out they're going on. For example, this weekend, I think the Portuguese American Club right down the road here is doing their annual St. Anthony's feast celebration down there. And it just struck me that the history of that would be an interesting one
Sure.
for somebody to do, from somebody from that Portuguese American Club to do that.
And can't you just imagine the visuals of people eating all that incredible food and
Yeah.
you know, the talk and the laughter and the music, and that's a great story.
It is. It is a great story, and I'm hoping somebody watching this will pick up on this and do it. So this show will be aired when, in December?
December 2nd.
Okay,
Yep.
and when is the North Kingstown show going to be aired?
September 2nd.
September. Okay, that's
Yeah, so it's coming
that's
up.
just about a month away.
Right. So that's why I was in the edit suite, because we are busy editing, getting the show ready.
Okay. So one more time, those people interested in participating in this, and there's a million ways to do this, limited only by your own imagination,
Sure.
really.
Right.
Should come to the meeting at the Portsmouth Library, what date?
The 29th of July, 6:30 at night.
Okay. 29th of July, Portsmouth Free Public Library. And come on down there and you know, bounce some ideas against Margie and some other folks that'll probably be there as
Right.
well. Thanks for coming in.
Oh, my
And,
pleasure. This is great because this helps us get the word out.
Yeah, well, what's great about this project is that it's got something for everybody, and you're right, we do have a fascinating history. Even the more recent history is fascinating, so there are a lot of stories out there, and I think we could, I'm really going to be fascinated to see the final result of this
So
thing.
we'll expect you to be part of our pledge night
Well,
then.
I certainly will be, and I'll be at the meeting on the
Great.
29th as well. But thanks for coming in, Margie. Really appreciate it. And that's about it for me on Portsmouth This Week. See you next time.